Welcome to One-on-One. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14. We have a city council member in the house. Megan Outten is here. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you, Greg. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
So you're new to the council, so I enjoy watching you because everything that happens on the council seems like it's all new to you, and you're very good at reacting to everything that happens.
I will say this has been a pretty dynamic 3 months here.
Yeah, so you guys have finished the budget now, but it was a tough budget. What did you learn through the budget process?
You're right. It was a pretty tough budget this year. A lot of difficult decisions had to be made. It was really eye-opening, just the level of work that goes into this, not just from the council point of view, but the city administration, the department heads. I mean, we really have a comprehensive team working on this that are, ultimately making decisions that are going to impact my residents on a day-to-day basis. So you're right, a lot did pop up this year. We did have some upcoming tax increases. We had some also exciting projects on the horizon, all of which we finally passed last night.
That's good. And you did have to increase property taxes. It looked like it was going to be a 10-cent increase, ended up settling on 5. What was that process like?
Yeah, so originally it was proposed to us to have a 15% property tax across the board, something that I wasn't entirely comfortable with. We're in a period of time where we're all starting to feel the pressure on our wallets, and I felt that we needed to be a little bit more conscious of our residents, particularly those on a fixed income like our senior citizens. So we were able to walk that back down to a 5% across the board, which I was extremely happy that the city administration was willing to work with me on that.
So it looked like there were some cuts at the last minute to get things balanced. There's also going to be a sewer rate increase. Sewer rates in Salisbury have been going up for a long time because of we're still paying the bills from way back when the new sewer plant went in. And that's an issue. But one of the things we learned in this budget was that inflation was affecting costs so much.
Yeah, so during our budget sessions, we met with some of the department heads, and I found out that our chemicals for the water treatment plant have a cost hike of 36% just due to inflation. So that's something that we had to take into consideration as we were evaluating this budget season is, we're seeing this across the board, all industries, and that also impacts local government that, these cost increases are starting to impact our day-to-day. We're having to reevaluate the budget to be able to afford those because those, specifically the water treatment, that's a state mandated. We must have those chemicals. We need them. So working that out to make sure that we could afford them. And thankfully, we have a great team who they were able to finagle some numbers and make sure that we were actually able to come in a little lower than we had anticipated for that.
Right. So the employees did get a raise, but they didn't get the raise that they wanted.
No, and you're absolutely right. Something that I'm hoping we can readdress next year. We were able to give a 4% salary increase across the board. So, we didn't see any salary cuts. That was something that I was very adamant for and a big advocate for. But we were only able to give them that 4% rather than that 6%. Like I mentioned, there's something that I'm looking forward to addressing next cycle, hopefully.
Now, in my world, 4% is a lot.
4% is. And something, again, that we need to be mindful of, that 4% is an attempt to bring everyone up to a market competitive value. Something that I know at the city we're struggling with, at the county, across the board. We are trying to find ways to make our salaries more competitive and more desirable so we can start bringing in that talent back into the city limits. And we have, a top-notch staff working for us.
It is interesting because for so long, a municipal job was very desirable because a lot of paid holidays and great benefits.
Yeah.
But private sector's caught up with that.
Yes.
So now, a municipal job doesn't have the same allure that it used to.
Yes and no. I think the municipal government draws a specific type of person, and those are people who feel called to public service. I've been amazed at the quality of people we have here in our Salisbury city government and on the administrative side. But they're not always in it for the money, but we want to make sure that they have the salary that they deserve and desire to be able to live in this community here. So that 4% I think is going to help make us a little bit more competitive in the region, but also, working a little bit more diligently on making sure that this is a work environment that people are happy to come day in, day out and work with us on.
It's been interesting. The council meetings in the old days, we used to call them the Monday night fights because there was always a good skirmish that it would happen in the city council. That calmed down for a long time, but we saw some people coming unhappy again to council right when you arrived. So that's your first taste of citizens getting up and squawking about things.
Yeah, I mean, I say this every council. I love seeing residents come out. I think that is an important facet of our democracy. And I encourage every day that people come out and speak at these meetings. But you're right, we are starting to see a little bit more of a vocal community. And personally, I think that's for the best. It's going to provide an outlet for collaboration, and it's really going to help us find better solutions that are going to not just support one facet of the community, but the broader community here in Salisbury.
My job at the paper is to sort of telegraph things so people have a sense of what's going on, what's coming up. And I feel like everyone's kind of blindsided with this budget. We'd had pretty good budgets for a long time. There was all the COVID relief money, which made the budgeting the last 3 years, I think, pretty easy for everyone. That money's gone now, so you get inflation. You don't have the bump of COVID relief. So I guess I should have telegraphed that to people and let them know that we're going to have a problem coming up in the city in terms of the spending. But it really did hit all at once.
It did, and sometimes that is just the way life likes to throw things at you. But I think at the City Council, we were able to really look at this in a comprehensive way and find ways to balance all of those issues. Because like you mentioned, that funding is starting to dry up, and we need to find ways to be a little bit more independent when it comes to funding our city and our services.
There was also the situation with the fire services agreement expiring. County is supposed to kick money back to the city for the services the city provides to county residents. Some questions about that formula. County ends up giving $1 million, which is less than what the city probably needs. Where does that stand now? Are they still negotiating that?
It's my understanding, after talking to Mayor Heath, that there's still a little bit of negotiation going on, but I have full faith that the county executive and Mayor Heath will come to a wonderful understanding here. I think that this is the first time we've been able to come to the table and have a really collaborative conversation with the county. I'm sure, as you know, in previous years, that relationship wasn't always as healthy as it is today, and I think that is fully due to the work that Mayor Heath and County Executive Giordano have put into that relationship.
City's moved some offices into the old fire headquarters building.
Yeah, really exciting. We're hoping to be able to open that up to the public here soon. We have the majority of our staff pulled in there, and I believe council will be hosting their sessions here in August. Is the tentative date. So really excited about that space. I'm glad it's becoming back into the folds of the city government. That's a space that holds a special place in my heart. I truly do love it. And the bonus of that is that we're going to be able to offer that as a community space as well, where we're going to be hosting the council sessions can be opened to the community.
So council meetings might be held there.
Okay. Yes. Yep. We are in the process of waiting for a few more things to get fixed in there. The wiring, all the technology that comes with making sure we can stream these to the public, making these a little bit more accessible. Takes a little bit of time to get some of those. Supply chain issues have also been a big issue. Across the board, we're experiencing those as well. So that's pushed back our timeline a little bit. August, though, is what I've heard for that to be open.
And there will still be some city offices in the government office building.
Yes. So we'll be hosting a handful of departments still in the government office building. The majority of staff will be switched over to the new headquarters location. But we had just outgrown that government office building so much. I mean, between the county looking to expand and fill all those vacant seats that they've had for quite some time, and the city as well looking to tackle some of the vacancies that we've had for a number of years, there just wasn't space for both of us to coexist at that point. So this expansion will allow us to bring on some of those jobs that we've been looking on, some of the engineers and the electricians that we're hoping to hire.
Another thing, the Unity Square groundbreaking was on Friday. And I feel like I haven't told people hard enough what's going on there. People just sort of reacted like, well, you're taking our parking lot away, not knowing that site's already been sold, is slated for development.
Yeah.
The city's, I think, fortunate to carve out something for Unity Square. It's something that's definitely needed. You need a central area downtown where people can really gather in a circular fashion as opposed to in front of the government office building or just, on Division Street somewhere. But people have sort of push back on this thing like they don't like it all of a sudden. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, and I think this is something that I've advocated for a little bit more on council. The issue is there's so much noise out there in the community nowadays that it's hard for us. I've watched our communications team. They do a very diligent job of getting the information out there. It's just combating all of that other extra media that's out there now that sometimes these announcements kind of go under the radar. And to your point, this was initially proposed back in 2019. It was actually created back in 2014 with the feedback of, I think it was 2,500 plus residents who all put input into this project and the design behind it. Obviously, I hear the concerns of a lot of the constituents as regards to parking. I know I'm particularly mindful of making sure that our elderly and our disabled communities have access to parking. But I do also want to cultivate a community center that we can all really come together. And I think the Unity Square is going to be just that. It's going to be an opportunity, as you mentioned, for us to really build together without it being, right in front of the government office building, which isn't always the most practical place sometimes for us to hold community events.
Right, and people have said the amphitheater could serve the same purpose, but it's a whole different thing. It's a different vibe at the amphitheater compared to being really in downtown.
Yeah, and this is also to, promote the traffic for our local businesses too. I mean, I do love the amphitheater. I love going to the Friday Night Live events that we have every Friday, but it's a little off the beaten traffic for our businesses. So that this space here, the Unity Square, the hope is to have that cultivate some of that community for our downtown businesses to benefit from.
I think one thing, and I need to help on this, and the city needs to push this, people all of a sudden don't seem to like the parking garage. Like they have safety concerns about the parking garage. And I think it's just not being used to going to a parking garage. I park at the parking garage every day. There's never any issues in there. There's cameras everywhere. To me, it's completely safe. But you see the parking garage that's not even a third full, and then that lot is packed. If they just parked in the parking garage, things would be fine. There's lots of parking down there that no one seems to be aware of.
Yeah, and this goes back to just the education and the communication, making sure they actually understand the parking that is available in the community. Downtown specifically, we had multiple lots along with the parking garage to pull from. I know the city this past week pushed out a press release that covered all the lots that will be available.
Right.
The one that's going to be the full-time permit, the 2-hour free lot, which is now the parking garage, and just echoing that level of transparency that we need so the community really understands. Because we want the downtown community to be a space where they can come out and enjoy themselves and not have so much confusion behind this project.
Yep. It's interesting. Jake Day actually made the point, and it made me think differently, where he said, no one says, let's go to Salisbury, they have great parking. Like we'll go to St. Michael's where there's nowhere to park, and Ocean City where there's nowhere, because the things we want to see there are more important than the headache of finding a place to park. And if you have great stuff in Salisbury, people will come anyway, and they'll find a way to park.
I mean, you nailed it. People come to Salisbury for the community. It's part of the reason why I opted to move back here. It's why I'm looking to build roots in this community. People come to Salisbury first and foremost for the community that we've built.
Another kind of prickly issue was I almost think it's silly, the four-way stop on Camden Avenue and South Boulevard. Do you want to talk about that process that the council went through on that?
Absolutely. So that one's particularly in my district. And we did receive a number of comments and feedback from the community and residents that live directly at that intersection. And, thanks to their feedback, we were able to identify some more solutions. Obviously, I was very happy that, I personally myself and members of my community were not pleased with the rumble strips. I know that they were meant to be a temporary solution, but the city administration took our comments, took my feedback immediately to heart and removed them. And that to me is just a perfect example of the power and importance of community feedback. They have to come to the table and have the conversations so we can identify the solutions that are genuinely going to work for that community.
But then the residents almost immediately wanted the light put back up.
It's been a mixed feedback on that light. Some people were extremely pleased that we took the light away, like yourself. Some people were, determined to bring it back. They thought that the structure that we'd had previously, the flow accommodated the community very well. And some people want to see entirely different plans for that intersection. So we're trying to take all of that community feedback, bring it back to our Department of Infrastructure and just make sure that when they're looking to revamp some of our street infrastructure, that they take those comments along with them as they kind of map out their plans.
Not to sound like a sexist, but it's a majority female population on the city council. Does that have an effect on how decisions are made?
Not at all. I mean, it's exciting and inspiring to be on a council full of so many powerful women. Each and every single one of them brings a unique perspective to the table. They've been phenomenal to work with, I must say. Though I do give President Boda props for being the lone man on that council there, because I'm sure it can feel a little lonely at times. But, I don't think we operate any different than any other council if it was a male majority council. We come there to do the job right, to represent our people, and that's what we do every Monday.
How do you guys work as a team?
Constant engagement. I check in with Councilman Boda on a regular basis, just to, be mindful of what's coming up on the upcoming agendas. I regularly meet with Mayor Heath. Really, again, and I've mentioned this before, I kind of repeat myself, collaboration, I'm really big on it. So staying engaged with all my other council members, understanding what's happening in their districts, because just because it's not my district doesn't mean that my residents, I have residents who may live in my district and then they, work in Councilman Jackson's district. So just being mindful of what's happening in other communities, keeping those lines of communication open, it's extremely important to me.
Right, you're District 3, which is like classic Salisbury, the center of Salisbury, the area around the college.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's an important district in the city.
It is. It has a lot of history tied to it. It's a wonderful community. I've really fallen in love with that area quite often, and hence why I'm currently living there now. So, but you're right, we have a pretty dynamic group there. The university's right there. We're right on the water downtown, and I even have that little sliver of Pemberton as well. So
right.
It's a pretty diverse group that lives in that district.
Our high-rise downtown, the Ross, is about to come online. We're going to get a bunch of SU students living downtown, young professionals. Good or bad for the downtown?
It's an exciting new opportunity for Salisbury. And I will also add that the Ross is not just student housing. So it's actually opened up to the broader community. Something that I've been a big advocate for is providing that segue between Salisbury University graduates and those young professionals. The city often talks about brain drain and trying to maintain that talent from Salisbury University, UMES, and Warwick, and finding that level of housing in the community that they can stick around in. That's going to be increasingly more important, is identifying those. So Ross was the first step, but really I'm hoping to find more avenues for affordable housing for those young professionals.
Yeah, people tell me that when they recruit the medical professionals at Tidal Health, housing's a problem, where these people want to live, and the idea that they can live downtown, look at the hospital they're working at, be convenient, be able to walk to work. That's all going to be assets to the downtown.
Absolutely. I mean, it really puts you smack dab in the middle of the city, and to me, one of the many cultural hubs that we have here in the city. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity. It's going to be a great driver for some of the businesses in the area, and I'm really looking forward. I believe they're opening this August, so we're going to start seeing some faces down there.
Now, you're pretty young. You're 30.
I am.
So a 30-year-old on the council, what's it like to be young and have a young point of view, within the government?
I think I bring a different set of perspectives to the table. And like I mentioned with some of our other council members, we all bring a different perspective to the table. And I think one of them for me is that I can advocate for the needs of our young professionals and trying to bring that community to the folds, especially Salisbury University, Warwick, even our high school graduates, finding those opportunities to have them stick around. I try to be that voice for them, whether it comes to making, affordable housing decisions, identifying program opportunities that might be helpful to them. That's really where I think my support is, my voice and brings to the table for that is that level of perspective.
The Here's Home program, that was started under the previous mayor, it seems like it was really needed for the community. The Ann Street housing thing, it seems like it's been a great success. But there are people who are critical of the city wanting to grow, multifamily units within the town, as opposed to the single-family homes, the growth in that area. But it's a city, so it makes sense to me to have multifamily. Where are you on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, when we talk about growth, we need to have mindfulness of smart growth, and I think that's exactly what the previous city council and Mayor Day did when they brought that Here is Home initiative to the city. We talk about our love for the county and our love for the city, and they're drastically different in terms of the layout. And I think people want it to be that way. They want the county to stay the county. They want the city to stay the city. And I love the opportunity and the use of these multifamily homes because it allows us to build up and rather out. And that urban sprawl is where we hear a lot of concerns coming from in the county of, the county's becoming less and less of the county we used to love. It's more and more developed each year. And this, to me, is an opportunity to build up rather than out and still provide the housing that our residents absolutely need while still keeping it in the city limits,
We're losing our police chief, who we all seem to like a lot. The crime issues, a lot of the crime issues in Salisbury have been solved in the time that she's been in charge. I guess there's a process that's starting now to select a new police chief.
Yes, it was a bittersweet to see Chief Duncan go. I've known her in the community for many years, however, on the city council for only a number of months. And, she did some wonderful work for the city. I think we can all agree that she did a phenomenal service to us, and we benefited entirely from her leadership. We are having an open process out for that new chief. I believe there's a number of community members on that committee. It's a diverse committee to search for that. So that I'm also pleased it's going to be community residents along with some members of our police department to help identify that chief. I think we're all in agreement that we want this level of community policing to continue and really find ways to nurture that relationship with the residents there.
It'll be a council decision in the end with the mayor, I guess. So you'll interview the candidates.
That I believe so.
Yeah.
That's something that I haven't had a chance to talk to Jack about. I mean, I know ultimately we're pulled into that process at some point. It's just a matter of when and also how long it's going to take to identify that individual. It's my understanding that the plan is to really find the perfect candidate. So it could take a number of months before we are able to identify someone to replace Chief Duncan.
So just so I know what's going on and I'm able to telegraph things that are coming up, what's on the horizon for the council?
So I believe next for the council, it's just, making sure that everything that we've allocated for the budget gets implemented properly. I know we're in the process of reviewing some strategic plans. We're looking forward to doing that over the summer. And then as far as it goes for me, I think you're going to be the first one to hear it. I've officially filed for Salisbury City Council District 3. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm very excited. I think the experience that I've had from being on the council this last few months, very unique opportunity, and I'm sure that it's going to be able to help me be a better representative come this November.
How hard is it to sort of sit there and say, look, I'm going to just learn here today and not try to take charge of this thing?
It's
because you're very aggressive in terms of your leadership.
I am a proactive person, I will say. I have taken a back seat and allowed myself to learn from these council members. They all bring with them years of knowledge, and they've all been wonderful mentors in some capacity. And so you're right, it has been a little difficult for me, but I think it's made me a better leader by allowing myself to slow down and listen and learn from the community members, from the leaders, from the department heads. So it's definitely been a wonderful experience for me.
Yeah, I think you showed some leadership in a recent meeting. There was kind of a string of people who were upset about some things, and it probably would have just made me shut down. So then it came time for the council members to talk, and the first thing you did was thank everyone for coming, and we really appreciate your viewpoints, and we really do care, and thank you. And I was like, wow, that's like a real high road thing, instead of, I just want this meeting to be over and so I can go home. And then the other council members followed your lead and said something very similar to everyone. And you can just feel the audience shift in terms of like, okay, we have been heard by these people.
Yeah.
They're not these evil people that we're just here to yell at. It really changed the mood of the room, and I think that's because of what you said.
I appreciate that. I mean, I do believe that residents come to feel heard. It's part of our job as representatives, and I just wanted to let that room know that we had taken in everything that we had heard that evening. And, we want to foster a relationship of collaboration, and that only happens when our residents feel heard in those meetings.
How can people get a hold of Megan Outten?
You can go to my Facebook page as Councilwoman Megan Outten on Facebook to receive updates on city changes. I post any alerts that are happening in the community. And then also meganoutten.com is where my campaign is. So if anyone's looking to learn a little bit more my platform issues, that's where that'll be.
And if I want to complain about the Camden and South Boulevard light?
Oh, you can reach me at my council email or my phone number. I welcome those comments and feedback. But yes, it's megan@salisbury.md. Or it's mouten@salisbury.md.
Right.
Feel free to reach out to me. I'm always looking forward to the feedback from the community.
She's Megan Outten. She's District 3, City of Salisbury, council member, brand new on the council. We're thrilled she had time to be with us here today. Thanks so much, Megan.
Thank you.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. Another Citizen 101 right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and one-on-one. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.